So, Mai Chen, what's your background?
Well, I'm a lawyer and I specialise in public law.
And so what have you done over the last 10 or 20 years?
Oh, I've specialised in public law. The secret of success is to choose your specialty and to dominate it.
Gotcha. And so what have you done for New Zealand? What's your involvement been with New Zealand over the last while?
My involvement with New Zealand, I've sought to be involved in all of the key public law issues that arise and to try and help around the place. Obviously, I have a law firm and we specialise in public law and we help people with their problems, but that also allows us to engage in trying to solve problems in the national interest, because the reality is you can't help your clients with their problems if it's not in the national interest, because otherwise the government's not going to do it. It's not about special pleading, it's about trying to explain to the government why they should change things, because it's also good for the country.
So how much time do you spend consulting with people and how much with government directly? Is it a...
Well, we work right across the board, but essentially people come to us when they've got issues with government, and government comes to us when they have issues. And so it's about sitting down and trying to find solutions. That's what I do. I'm a fixer. People come, they have problems. It's just that when I fix things, they're about policy, public policy, they're about legislation, and sometimes I end up having to sue a few people.
So
sometimes they're ministers.
what kind of policy issues have you been involved with over the last while?
Oh, I don't think there's a policy issue we haven't been involved in.
Yep.
I think the great thing about specialising in public law is that you can have problems with government in every field, in every sector of society. So we work right across the board, whether it's tax or health or education or ACC or you name it, we've done it really.
How long have you been in business for?
Well, Chen Palmer started 15 years ago, and we're still the top public law firm in New Zealand, and we're still the only one, which is extraordinary. But they've had the Law Awards running for the last 2 years on the top New Zealand public law firm, and we're it.
So I was going to say the next question, which is what are the challenges and opportunities, but if you're owning the space at the moment...
Well, you know, you never want to get too cocky, because there's only one way down when you're at the top, and it's, you know, it's not being at the top. And I think the recession's been good, in the sense that it really forces you to focus on what matters, what's of value to your clients, and it's really forcing us to focus on maximum value at least cost, because people can't afford it. They're trying to drive down cost at the moment. It's also really good, Tim, because it forces you to ask the hard questions. You can't not deal with them. And also it forces you to focus on what you're really good at doing. So if you thought, oh, well, we might dabble in a bit of this or that, don't dabble. We're in a recession. Focus on what you're good at and do it really well.
So what are the big challenges for New Zealand right now and coming through the recession?
Yeah, the big challenge is really to survive, but also to make sure that we're ready for the upswing. And so, you know, we've been brainstorming some of those things today. But, you know, recessions are not for the weak-hearted. You've got to have resilience, but you've also got to have great capability. So I think the key thing is not to hide your head in a hole. Let's face the fact that times are hard at the moment, but let's meet it head on and do something about it.
What is going to be New Zealand's big opportunity, do you think, coming out of the recession?
Coming out of the recession? Well, I think that the recession is making us meaner and leaner. It's forcing us to make decisions to get out of areas that we're not good at. It's forcing us to focus on the areas that we're really good at. And it's also forcing us to grapple with a lot of the things that we haven't been so good at. New Zealand firms have traditionally not had to have high capability in a range of areas, because they can say, we're unique, we're the only ones in the market. And so they don't have that competitiveness that you need to have in bigger markets. I think that's not the case at the moment, because times are really hard. And so people are having to upskill. They're having to become more capable. They're having to have better governance, better management, better marketing, better everything. And so I think what that means is that at the end of that period, you should be mean and lean and ready to run. I think that the one thing it's certainly done for my business is that since Chen Palmer started 15 years ago, you know, the firm's been on fire. We've just been running every hour that God gave us. And it's been really good during the recession to start stripping back to first base and saying, all right, well, what was great and what was not, and getting rid of some of the stuff that hasn't been so good. It's made us better, and it means that we're in tip-top shape. But I don't think it's enough just to survive. I think that we need to aspire, and we need to think about where we're going to be. So you need to not have people just focusing, you know, on their own rice bowl. That's the Chinese way of saying it, mate. And thinking about how am I going to survive. That's not enough. You got to set your sights a bit higher and say, all right, well, we're surviving now, but that's where we want to be. And so, you know, you got to set your sight and you got to set yourself on that path. Got a bit of time, you should be upskilling yourself and you should be moving yourself so that you can get into that space. The The really big thing about it, Tim, is that a lot of people have said to me, oh, when the recession's over and it all goes back to normal. Mate, there is no normal. The great thing about the recession is it changes everything. So you've got to figure out how it's changing, and you've got to get in front of the pack.
What are the big export opportunities that are going to emerge, do you think, for New Zealand?
Oh, gee, export opportunities is not my specialty, but all I know is that we're very good at producing things from the land, and the great thing about the recession is that people aren't buying fancy cars, and they're not buying a whole bunch of other things, but they are buying food. And so I think it's forced us to say, well, gee, actually, our primary production base has not been that bad. But that doesn't mean we should stop innovating and stop thinking about other things which are not primary based, so that we can catch the wave on the way up.
Thanks heaps for your time, Mai Chen.
No problems.
Thanks for contribution to New
Okay.
Zealand.
Cheers.
Cheers.